Hi,
Ready.
it's lovely to meet you. Who are you?
Hi, John Houseal. I am the co-founder and CEO of GIVN Water, but I'm also a recovering consultant, father of two, part-time future chicken farmer, and native of the U.S.
Your company GIVN has a central philosophy. Could you talk to us about that?
Sure. Our central philosophy really comes from the idea that we believe everybody aspires to a higher purpose, whether you call that meaning or importance, but that the vast majority of people out there are looking to achieve some form of higher purpose, and that in everyday purchases we have an opportunity to connect with that energy and turn everyday purchases into meaningful good for people in need.
And when did you launch and where are you?
So we launched in 2015, right in the middle of the summer, which as beverage launches go is not the ideal time to initiate that. We started in the Midwest, and we have now expanded to the Northeast as well as in the Southeast within the U.S. We went from zero to today we have almost 700 retail locations carrying the product.
And your product helps a lot of people. Could you take us through that? And where are these people helped and what do they get?
Sure. So GIVN Water is a premium North American spring water. We call it infused with good karma. But every bottle that we sell funds a day of clean water for a person in need. Those people come from a variety of places. We just shipped out yesterday a truckload of water out to Flint, Michigan, which, as many Americans will know, is still recovering from a water crisis. We also work heavily with partners like waterisbasic.org and water.org and occasionally UNICEF, and support investments that range in places like Haiti to a number of countries in Africa with, I think, a specific emphasis over the last 12 months on South Sudan and the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
What's the water like?
in the DRC or in our bottle?
In your bottles.
The water's outstanding. So we bottle the best North American spring water. We work very hard to find our sources. All of our sources are small family-owned businesses. They are bottling premium water. So what that means is it's naturally alkaline. It's high in electrolytes. And it tastes amazingly crisp and refreshing. So we don't, unlike some folks, crank tap water out of the municipal system, repurify it, and then add back minerals for taste. All of our water comes out of the ground, tasting absolutely amazing.
So if I go to a supermarket in the States and I have a choice of obviously water bottles on the shelf, why should I buy yours as opposed to another's? Is it more expensive, for example?
No. So what our value proposition is that the quality of our product meets or exceeds any other product that you would find on the aisle. That includes the big names like Fiji and Evian, and the more traditional names like Smartwater and other folks. But the quality of our product and the taste of our product meets or exceeds all of those brands, and our price is never more than and often less than those brands. So what we think about our value to the consumer, why the consumer should choose the product, it's you get the same great product at the same great price, and you have the opportunity to express your voice in a way that matters for a person in need, and that person in need is in dire need in many cases of clean water to maintain health and to continue to enjoy a fruitful life.
This interview is broadcast across the world. Could
Yes.
you talk to us about your global plans?
Sure. So, as we look at the brand, one of our first steps is establishing our presence throughout the U.S. So that's a clear focus and priority for us in the near term. I think Along with that is developing our footprint so that we can make an impact for people in need across the globe. So historically we focused primarily on the Caribbean and Africa. We would like to extend our impact into Asia as well as Central and South America, because the need for clean water exists throughout the globe, and we really feel that by harnessing the power of consumers' desire to make an impact on the world, we can really drive that change across the globe. I think as we look to expand, we've gotten a lot of requests to ship the product overseas. I think as we look at that, we'll consider establishing operations in other countries. We've already begun plans from our end to look at Canada, because it's obviously just next door in terms of that relation. I would say that there are also other products out there in the world that are doing good like us. So you have one bottled water that's in the UK, and they have a similar mission. And then you have Water for Water, I believe is their name, that is based out of based out of Australia. And they are also providing similar impact. For instance, in their case, I believe it's the Philippines and Cambodia. So we look to expand, and we also look to partner with these organizations, because we view the impact of those, for those who are in need as kind of our principal mission above all else.
There have been some criticisms about the one-for-one business model. Can you talk us through that and explain how you have addressed that and how other companies have done so?
Sure. So, I think the criticism starts with generally the shining star of the one-for-one model and Tom's Shoes. And in the Tom's Shoes model, you have the shoes being provided to the person in need free of charge. I think the unintended and unexpected outcome of that was that individuals who were making, marketing, or selling shoes in these communities that Tom's was donating their shoes to, unfortunately were negatively impacted. And that wasn't, I don't think, something that they set out to do, but it was something that they encountered. And it's one of the things, I spent about 10 years working with the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control here in the United States, and understanding the unintended side effects of interventions. In this case, Tom's donation program is a critical component of any effort. What we do is we really do two things to mitigate those criticisms. The first one is we have a set of investments that we classify as survival investments. So when you look at the work that we're investing in South Sudan, we're building wells in a country that has very little civil society and very little security, and we're employing a local workforce to build those wells. So we're not displacing another business that would be providing that service if we weren't providing it for free. So the negative impacts associated with putting cobblers or shoemakers out of business in the Tom's model, when we look at our survival portfolio of investments, we're really going into places where we accept that there may not be safety and security, but at least we can give them the chance of having clean water while hopefully the country comes along. But we accept that there are a lot of factors outside of our control that we can't mitigate. And then we have another portfolio which we refer to as kind of our Thrive investment. So where we're looking to, as opposed to helping the community survive, we're really looking to help a community thrive. And so this is one of the newest aspects of our business, and we've been in talks with a nonprofit called the Kula Project, which is a fantastic organization. And what they do is their nonprofit charter is they help build coffee cooperatives to make communities sustainable, to provide a sustainable economic source for communities in Rwanda. What was interesting when we sat down to talk with them, our mission is water, their mission is coffee, and how do those two things connect, and how do we make a community thrive through those investments? What we learned, or what I learned in the process of working with their leadership team, was that as you look at coffee growing, the quality of the water, beyond the health aspect of dirty water in communities in terms of waterborne diseases, when you look at the economic impact, when you have to wash the coffee beans with dirty water, it loses a substantial amount of value in the market. So it can be a case where you have a premium tier bean that's washed in dirty water, and now it has to be sold for bulk coffee. And so when we look at investments in the Thrive portfolio, we're making investments not only to give health and wellness to these individuals, but it translates into a very direct economic impact. And then across both of those portfolios, what we leave behind in the majority of cases when we build well infrastructure, as opposed to some of the other interventions, we do leave behind an infrastructure that will support the community for a time to come. And so, as we look at offsetting the negative aspects of the one-for-one model, we attempt to be very deliberate in avoiding what has traditionally been the drawbacks of the one-for-one. I wouldn't say we will be immune to some of that, but it's one of the things we focus on continuously to really understand the communities we're working with and what, if any, potential negative impacts there might be.
You're a B Corporation. Can you explain what that is and how the process through which you achieve that label?
Yes, the process was much longer than I think any of us anticipated, which was a good thing. They're a very rigorous organization. They're very dedicated to what they're doing. And at the end of the day, what we found with the B Corporation, so if you think about the B Corporation movement, it's about being, in a traditional corporation, you're responsible to your shareholders. The B Corporation really extends that to being responsible for the community, the environment, as well as your employees, in addition to the shareholders. They use the phrase business doing good, I believe. But it's a rigorous process where we go through a set of criteria, from everything from our compensation schemes to our environmental impact to our community benefits to our corporate structure. And they assess on a scale whether or not we meet the criteria to be considered a B Corporation. And we were very excited to be awarded in 2016 what's called a Best for the World nominee, which means we scored in the top 10% of all B corporations for our community impact. And I believe we were also the first North American bottled water product to achieve a B Corp certification. So it was really exciting for us.
Is there a limit to how much money you can make being labeled as a B Corporation?
I don't believe there is. So you're talking about as an individual or as a corporation?
As an organization, profit.
To my knowledge, there isn't, but that doesn't mean that they won't at some point implement it. There are, within the grading structure of the B Corporation, there are points assigned based on compensation disparities between top executives and the lowest paid employee in an entity. So they are actively grading, is it 1,000 times the lowest salary, or is it 30 times the lowest salary? Is it 10 times? And based on that result, you receive or do not receive points as part of the assessment.
Can you talk to us a little bit about the personal journey to the point where you had that light bulb moment to set up GIVN? Was it a day? Was it a sequence of events? How did it all come about?
Yeah, I think it was very much a sequence of events. I'd say it started back in college when I had a specific university teacher who, through the process of his course, taught me what I was capable of doing internally. And he did that through a very unkind and very pressing way. But as a result of that, understanding what you are capable of and developing an internal belief that if there's something that I'm interested in doing or feel passionate about, that it is possible to achieve it. I'd say working with the CDC for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, one of the world's preeminent public health organizations, it was a blessing and it was motivation. It was a blessing in the sense that I had the opportunity to work with the World Health Organization, travel around the world, see people in need, and also meet the people working to help people in need, and to really develop a general perspective. It was a motivation in the sense that I felt like there was an untapped market in terms of the all people aspire to a higher purpose and they have this energy, and that large-scale aid is highly inefficient. And so as I got to the end of that journey, I really began, I was sitting in the parking lot of a gym staring at a bottle of water just as I had finished my workout, and was thinking about the whole notion of bottled water and the price of certain bottled waters, and decided at that point really that there wasn't, when you look at how bottled water is marketed, it's marketed towards a cost-conscious buyer, it's marketed towards a fashion-conscious buyer, but there isn't really a brand or a bottle specifically in the U.S. that's marketed towards the individual and the good that is within them. And so what I felt like was, as opposed to plowing money into sponsoring football teams and plastering cars with advertisements, that we could create a brand that could generate the savings by lowering our cost of marketing and not doing the traditional Madison Avenue agency spend process, but really develop a groundswell, and then use those savings and also the proceeds to direct it back to doing good, and create this kind of virtual cycle where an everyday, in the U.S., we consume about 200 to 300 million bottles of water a day. There's about 600, depending on the math, 600 to 800 million folks in need of clean water. To me, there isn't any reason why we shouldn't be able as a society to turn those convenience purchases, not the bulk water purchases, but the convenience purchase where you're at the sandwich shop or you're at the gym, into something that helps another person without sacrificing the quality. As I mentioned, our water quality, our product packaging is as nice as any you'll find.
Have you had any help from celebrities? Tom's was lucky enough to have Scarlett Johansson wear them, and a whole host of other celebrities wear their shoes.
Yes. Yeah, so celebrities, it's interesting. There's actually a celebrity that has started, there's two celebrities that have started their own bottled water companies. Marky Mark, Mark, I forget his full name, so don't blame me, but he created his own kind of athletic water, as well as there's a bottle, a brand in the U.S. Started by another famous actor's son, Will Smith, and his son, Jaden Smith. So when we think about the celebrity involvement, our focus has been really more on what we saw as individuals who really represented the core of our belief system. So we're not looking, nothing against her, for the next Jennifer Aniston to wear the smart bottle, but we really want ambassadors and folks that are representative of everyday people. And the traditional feel-good spirit that our brand really projects. So we have a number of wounded warriors, former veterans of the Iraq War. We've been blessed to have the support of William Morris Endeavor, which is one of the largest music agencies in the world, in their support, and have about a dozen musicians that are our ambassadors. But we haven't invested a lot in having the celebrities wear our products or carry our products. One of our core missions or core philosophies to date has been that we will not pay individuals to represent our product, because we believe what we're doing, if we have that level of excess money, we want to redirect that back to helping people. And that's just kind of what we're all about.
You're doing extremely well. It's across the States. Having said that, are there any obstacles to doing even better? Is there anybody, an organization, group of people one individual who you would really like to get in front of to move this to the next stage?
Yeah, the very first person who always comes to mind when people ask that question is Matt Damon. I don't know why. He's kind of the universal ambassador for clean water, I think, in the American public's eyes with his work through water.org. They've been a wonderful partner for us. But getting in front of him, letting him know what we're doing, helping him understand the great kind of complement of what we're doing to organizations like his and many others that we think could be very prosperous for both. I think that's certainly one specific person. When we think about organizations, the biggest challenge we have to growth, besides capital, like any other business, is really the distribution footprint, which is really tightly managed by the big cola companies. And so when you look at entering markets, a lot of that, to be frank, we had a 100-store, as an example, we had a 100-store quick service restaurant who was interested in carrying the product. But because they had a large cola company's fountains in their store, the cola company would not let them carry the bottle of water, even though they did not have a natural spring water product. They blocked that store from carrying the product. So those are the real world impediments that we face to extending our impact and reaching consumers. But distribution mixed with raising awareness from people like Matt Damon and others that are really passionate about helping those in need.
You've spoken about who you'd like to get in front of to move the business to the next stage. What about you personally? Who would you most like to meet, and what question would you like to ask them?
Sure. For me, I would most like to meet an individual. He's since passed, named Eric Hoffer. I'm absolutely fascinated by his story. He was, I don't know if you know him, but he was a philosopher / longshoreman. I think he was called the longshoreman philosopher. But the thing I remember most from reading all his books is that he was blind from maybe the age of 4 or 5 till he was 13. And he was largely uneducated in the formal sense. But when he regained his sight, he did not know when he might lose his sight again. There was no medical explanation for why he had lost his sight, nor why he had regained it. And so his response to that was to read everything he possibly could, because he never knew when his sight might go again. And just that mindset and that pure pursuit of passion in life. And later he was asked, well, did you ever want to find out why you went blind? And his answer was, I don't care. He's like, I have things to do, and I have to keep going until perhaps I lose it again, or perhaps I never lose it again. And that really drew me into him. The fact that he was self-taught, and then later went on to do some pretty amazing things in the world. And I would just love to sit down and have a conversation with him about, I believe he passed away in the 80s, really understanding what he would think of the world today and how it's progressed, because during his time he was writing a lot during the Cold War and kind of the evolution from the New Deal into modern America, and that would be I would love his insights on everything, including the current administration. It would be very fun.
What do you think about the current administration, and how does that impact your business?
Yeah, so we are an apolitical organization, so we don't really get into the politics. I would say for us, all of our product is manufactured domestically. We source from American small businesses, so in terms of the new administration's outlook on how they plan to manage trade, it's unlikely to have any impact on our business. So from that perspective, I think we're pretty good.
Looking back to your childhood, early years as a student, given the path that you're now on, and the 1-for-1 mission in particular, is there anything that you would have done differently to prepare yourself even more for this task? Education, experience?
I think honestly I would have just started earlier. I spent if anything, I would describe myself as a late bloomer in terms of the entrepreneurial spirit. I came out of university and went to work for a very large, Big 4 or Big 6 at the time consulting firm.
Was that KPMG?
Yes, with KPMG, and very quickly did some intrapreneur things. I built a number of systems for them that they didn't even conceive of, so I came up with the business plan. But then as life develops, I wasn't as active about pursuing those the entrepreneurial spirit, and was more involved in the corporate game, if you will. And I think if I had anything to do over again, I probably would have diminished pursuits in that area and started a little earlier, because there really isn't anything more exciting or more fun than creating something out of nothing.
Could you talk to us maybe about the next product areas you're going into, or is that a secret?
I will tell you we're not 100% confirmed, but so we have two dimensions. I think product extensions and then new product categories. I think for us the most obvious and easiest extension of our product is to move into a natural sparkling product. When you look at that market, it's while it is inundated with flavored products, within the U.S., the staples are Perrier and maybe one other bottle. But really in the mass distribution, the Perrier product set is really the only non-flavored sparkling product. You saw Smart Water introduce their own sparkling water product. So for us, we unflavored. So we see that as an opportunity. I think we just had a team at San Francisco State University work through some research for us to explore what segments resonated with consumers. And I think besides beverages, we look at health and beauty products. And so that's probably an area that we'll begin to look at. I think the question will be whether or not we build it directly or work with someone else that's already working in the space.
As one last point to sum up, can we have a call to action from you to consumers to use their buying power for good?
Sure. I would say every single day there are millions upon billions of purchases made that we make out of hand and simply out of convenience. And if we harness the power of those very small decisions as one, we have the potential to eliminate untold numbers of health issues, ranging from access to clean water to hunger and nutrition, and to hygiene and sanitation. So my call to action would be, it requires doing nothing other than simply moving your hand slightly to the right or left.
John Houseal, co-founder of GIVN, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.